Salem's Lot features significant connections to Mike Flanagan's upcoming The Dark Tower adaptation. The 1975 horror novel set in the fictional town of Jerusalem's Lot was Stephen King's second published novel and was translated into an on-screen adaptation in 1979. A remake directed by Gary Dauberman and starring Lewis Pullman, Mackenzie Lee, and Piluas Bake is debuting on Max in 2024, with King openly supporting the Salem's Lot adaptation. Several years after the publication of Salem's Lot, King published The Gunslinger, which launched the Dark Tower series that connects to many of the characters, locations, and storylines in the author's other stories. Flanagan, who has adapted many of King's works, including Dr. Sleep and The Life of Chuck, is now helming a television series adaptation of The Dark Tower. While The Dark Tower features many connections to other King stories, there are particularly important connections to Salem's Lot. Father Donald Callahan's story continues in The Dark Tower. His story does not end in Salem's Lot. Father Callahan in Stephen King's Dark Tower. The story of Father Donald Callahan, one of Salem's Lot's most important characters, continues in the Dark Tower books. After the priest fails to defeat the vampire Kurt Barlow, an ashamed Callahan leaves Jerusalem's Lot, with his fate after his departure left unaddressed by the end of Salem's Lot. It was not until the Dark Tower novel Wolves of the Calla, which was published in 2003, that Callahan's post-Salem's Lot fate was addressed. The Dark Tower's protagonist, Roland Deschain, and his quartet encounter Callahan in the village of Calla Bryn Sturgis. After leaving Jerusalem's Lot, Callahan is revealed to have gone to New York City, where he learned to identify and hunt vampires. Callahan's actions attract the attention of the Dark Tower's overarching antagonist, the Crimson King, leading to a series of events that take him to Calla Bryn Sturgis. Callahan becomes an important character and ally to Roland and his quartet in Wolves of the Calla, Song of Susanna, and The Dark Tower, with Callahan's story culminating in the series' final installment. The Dark Tower provides closure for two other Salem's Lot characters. The fates of Ben Mears and Mark Petrie are revealed. Salem's Lot cast looking up at Barlow's house. Father Callahan is the main connection between Salem's Lot and the Dark Tower, but the series also provides insight into what happened to the writer Ben Mears and to young Mark Petrie. Ben, Mark, and Callahan are the only characters to survive the horrors inflicted by Barlow and the other vampires in Salem's Lot. While Callahan leaves the town before Barlow is defeated, Ben and Mark do not flee until they defeat Barlow, although they return in the epilogue, lighting a fire to destroy the town and the remaining vampires. In Wolves of the Calla, Ben and Mark's fates after the epilogue are revealed as Callahan attended Ben's funeral, with Ben being in his 50s, meaning the writer lived for 2 decades after Salem's Lot. It is also mentioned that Callahan saw Mark, now a young man, at the funeral, where Mark delivered a eulogy in honor of Ben. Wolves of the Calla provides closure for Ben and Mark, confirming that they lived for many years after the trauma they endured and had each other. How 2024's Salem's Lot movie and Mike Flanagan Dark Tower will complement each other. It's a great time to be a Stephen King fan. While 2024's Salem's Lot and Flanagan Dark Tower are entirely separate projects developed by different creative teams, both share the promise of being faithful and rewarding adaptations of King's work. King's support of Salem's Lot helped the 2024 remake finally release on Max after being delayed for 2 years following the author speaking highly of the adaptation. Flanagan's long-gestating Dark Tower series should be a stellar adaptation as well, with The Life of Chuck's positive reviews once again proving he is well suited to adapting King's stories.